did like this comment from Corn and Cattle. First of all, you gotta love the name here, but he says elevation should make Taylor. I'm assuming talking about Torrey Taylor. His kicks look like moonshots. This game is not being played in Colorado, and I did read something, Kevin, earlier this week that I thought it was earlier this week. I don't think it was this evening that the elevation in Fort Collins contributes to better punting numbers. Is there anything to that?
So this is a fun debate, and I talked to Ryan Stonehouse, Colorado State's punter, about it because he gets very defensive about that, as you can imagine. It's one of those, anyone that follows baseball, you always hear that, oh, they play at Coors. It's a hashtag on Twitter, Coors, because you're playing at elevation at Coors Field. The interesting thing, Ryan Stonehouse punt average is lower at sea level than it is at altitude, which is interesting. And he claimed, I'm not smart enough to have done the science on it. He maybe actually is, but he claims that does not. I don't know how true or not true that is, but the fact of the matter is he certainly has very good, not just punt average yardage wise, but net punting, meaning his hang time and such is good down at elevation. So, or without elevation, I should say. So I don't know the science of it. We'll have to bring in someone much smarter to figure all that out. But regardless, Ryan Stonehouse certainly has very good numbers wherever he's playing. But I'm sure there are some punters that would love to try it out up here.
Absolutely. And I'm trying to think, and maybe I should have done this research. Do you know, Kevin, the last time these two teams have played?
I believe this is the first meeting.
Is it the first meeting?
Yeah.
Which surprises me because I think of Colorado State. I mean, to be completely honest, Colorado State to me is a better program than Kent. I don't have a great feel of college football in general. And I guess this would be a good opportunity to kind of put a plug in for your stuff. If you are a Colorado State fan who's here, or you are just a Big Ten fan, or certainly a fan of college football in general, and you want to read Kevin's stuff, Kevin, where can people read your stuff?
Yeah, so I'm at Kevin_Lytle on Twitter, and I link all my stuff there. And then Coloradoan.com is our website that houses everything. And yeah, I'll have had several things this week and more coming, and looking forward to it. So
how long have you been on the beat for Colorado State?
Yeah, I have I've been at the paper a little over 8 years. I've been off and on the beat through that and on consistently for the last 5 now.
And I can just say, in reaching out to you this week, and I try to do my research as far as who we have on the show, and I can vouch for you that Kevin is putting in a lot of work for Colorado State football. And so if you are a Rams fan, or you just want to, maybe you're an Iowa fan and you want to kind of get a better grasp of the other side this week, certainly check Kevin out over at Kevin_Lytle on Twitter and at the Coloradoan. Okay, so if you're Colorado State, what's the feel with Colorado State as far as the program, expectations-wise, heading into this year? Obviously, we talked a bit about the COVID issues last year, and it was weird for everybody. I mean, regardless of program last season. But where is the fan base right now? Obviously, don't expect to win this Saturday, but where is this fan base?
It's a weird time here at Colorado State. So if you go back 2 years into the 2019 season, 4-8 season, a lot of frustration. Mike Bobo gets fired, basically. Technically, it was a mutual parting of ways, as they tend to do. So Mike Bobo gets fired. So you go into a coaching search, and Urban Meyer got involved. He coached at Colorado State, for a little bit in the early 90s before he became, the famous Urban Meyer. And he got involved and kind of handpicked several of his buddies that he thought Colorado State should hire. And the president and athletic director went through some of them. They actually had an agreement with Butch Jones before backing out of on that for a variety of reasons. Went one other way, and then finally pivoted to Steve Addazio, who at the time, basically a week before had been fired by Boston College. So Addazio gets hired. And to be very honest, it was not a popular hire here at Colorado State, for fans for the most part. And then the Rams went 1-3 in a very abbreviated COVID season last year. So it's one of those, there was an asterisk because it was such a weird season that, I think people wanted to give the benefit of the doubt. But still, a lot of skepticism, I would say, this offseason, and then starting 0-2, the fan base was really, really mad, to be honest. It was kind of one of the more hostile, I've been around this program for quite a while, and one of the more hostile environments I've seen. And then, like I say, the Toledo win helped neutralize that for a bit, but certainly I would say the fan base is skeptical right now, and really hoping for results to surpass what they're expecting, because right now there's a lot of worry that this season could go pretty sideways on Colorado State, in a 2-3 win type of year, which for the resources they put in, for a group of 5 team, that really can't be acceptable. So it's a weird time. Like I say, obviously a good win last week has really helped calm things down, because it was getting pretty hot, but it's still not all aboard the Adazio train or anything like that from CSU fans.
And Charles Pinster, going kind of back to the game here Saturday, one of our more loyal Iowa listeners, Iowa should be able to run the ball at will. I think that's a bit overeager. You look at the rushing numbers. I think Toledo, did they end up with like 20 yards rushing on Saturday?
Yeah, they were under 1 yard a carry.
And again, we're talking difference between a MAC offensive line and certainly a Big Ten and one of the better, I think, year in and year out Big Ten offensive lines. But Iowa had problems running the ball against Indiana. They had one big run with Tyler Goodson up the sideline. It was almost 50 yards that I think was accounted for over half of Iowa's rushing yard, or at least half of Goodson's rushing yards in that game. If you watch the Iowa State game, obviously a very good defensive front for Iowa State. I think one of the better defenses in the country. Some metrics say right now Iowa State has the best defense in the country, despite the fact that they're just 2-1. And Iowa struggled to run the ball against Iowa State. Now they got things going against Kent State, but let's remember, for Iowa fans who are penciling this in, and I'm not saying Charles is doing this, but if you're an Iowa fan penciling this game in as a win, if Iowa doesn't run the ball well, bad things happen. And I point back to 2016, and Kevin, you probably won't remember this, but there was a lot of hype around Iowa in 2016. You'll recall they came off the Rose Bowl year. They got their pants pulled down against Stanford. I get that. But they were 12-0 in the regular season, barely missed out on the playoff after losing to Michigan State in the Big Ten title game. And in 2016, there were a lot of expectations. Iowa blew the doors off Iowa State. They were undefeated. And they got beat by an FCS school, and, of course, probably the best FCS school out there, North Dakota State. But it was because Iowa couldn't run the football effectively. So if you're gonna come into Kinnick and beat Iowa, certainly as an underdog, you take the run game away, and that's not always the hardest thing to do. There is this misconception nationally sometimes with Iowa that Iowa just runs the ball down teams' throats, and that's not always the case. Iowa tries to do that, but if you look at the numbers, Iowa very rarely has a top 5 in the Big Ten rushing offense, and that's just those are the facts as far as the numbers. So I think if you're Colorado State, and again, I'm not making any predictions right here, but there's an opportunity for them to hang around if they can figure out a way to limit Tyler Goodson.
Yeah, Colorado State, that's number one. They've got to do that, because if they can't stop the run, it's game over. They won't be able to win in a high scoring type of game. Their offense just is not good enough, especially against this Iowa defense. So they absolutely have to do that, and then hope the secondary holds up. I think those are, that's point A for Colorado State, probably point. It's probably another point A. Can we have 2 point A's? Is that allowed? The other one will be turnovers. Colorado State cannot be turning it over. Obviously, Iowa has had some very big success in creating big plays defensively on that this year. If Colorado State is loose with the ball, again, they won't be able to hang in, because the offense isn't explosive enough to make up for those type of mistakes against a Iowa type of defense. That's just going to be huge. Obviously that's a football cliche, but so true for Colorado State this week. If they want to hang in, they've got to be very clean.